Okay, streaming is going. We don't have any agenda. So do you folks have anything on mind that you want to talk about?
I cannot hear you. Can you? Sorry, I cannot. Sorry.
We can hear you.
Okay, I can hear now. Maybe mistake from my side. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so I was saying that we don't have any agenda. If anybody actually has anything that they want to talk about today, please go ahead and bring it. David, James, Akash, Vani, anything?
Nothing for me.
Then maybe one thing. Yeah, go ahead, Vani.
No, I think the time stamping. I was traveling on Monday, so I was not able to join the meeting on Monday. And looks like the time stamping topic has been going in the right direction, and we have a path forward for that, right?
Yes, that is my understanding. I was not on the meeting on Monday also, so
Okay.
Yeah, so whatever is in the notes, that's what I know also.
Right. And he was had pinged me in order to go over the notation 1.2 release checklist. So I'll be working with he sometime today when he comes online in the evening. So that is something that I am planning to do today. Yeah.
Okay. So David and then James, I had a question for you. So David, I saw that you went through my document about TUF. I kind of wanted to maybe bring up the TUF question again, and what should be our next steps going in that direction. So James, I know that you've been spending a lot of time on this side, kind of looking for you for any guidance. What is your thinking? What we can do actually on the notary project side to support that?
That's a big question. Well, so are you talking specifically about the tag stream stuff, or
Tag stream and in general, because there is a separate conversation that I think Sache on our side will bring to OCI about tag history. So he wants to propose API for tag history on the OCI side. But that will be a API, not kind of taking a snapshot of the tag.
Well, I mean, the things I've got to say on this at the moment are it's still very much on our agenda to come up with a good way of representing tough metadata in the registry. At the moment, we're just working on trust policy, but the delegation bit to other namespaces is something we do care about, and we want to, you've seen my document, Toddy.
Yeah.
Try and find the link and post it to the group. It's just not super high priority right now, but it is definitely on our agenda. We're not dropping it. And then in terms of what this means for Notary project, I would have thought that the most relevant bit, apart from that, would be the ability to actually distribute Notary policy using TUF, in the same way that Cosign does. I would have thought, they're kind of independent of the how it's represented in the registry. Those would be the two
So,
areas.
would you mind kind of exploring that kind of the policy distribution and what is your thinking how to distribute those policies using TUF in and put it? I assume you will put the policies in the registry just for the context of everybody else on the meeting.
Yeah, so at the moment yes, that's right. I mean, basically it's about trust policy. So all of the same stuff that goes into Notary policies right now, the problem of distributing those policies isn't solved, right? It's totally unsolved. And TUF is a reasonable way of solving that. We could imagine Notary having pluggable routes, and I know Amazon have a plugin, and presumably Microsoft have one too. Notary plugin, that might be a way of bringing in routes for Microsoft and Amazon respectively, or Amazon and Microsoft respectively. So that's kind of what we're kind of working on internally, is trying to figure out how that works for us at Docker. And at the same time looking at how to represent that stuff in the registry effectively, so that it's not too chatty, and there's a good delegation model and so on. I did have one question about your document though, Toddy, on a
Yeah.
related note, which is the what is the actual kind of use case?
The use case
for
that
tag streams
we mainly target right now is really how you move forward to the latest image. Here is what we have right now in situation. So we have all over the kind of the infrastructure scanners that are running, and they go and discover images, but they don't discover them using their tags. They discover them using the digests. So the question is, if I have the digest of something that is running in my infrastructure, how do I figure out whether that's the latest digest or image from a particular tag stream, or is there anything more up to date, and to move to the latest one? So that is the main scenario that right now I am targeting. There were, I think I had something else in the document, and also there was another thing that we discussed with Sajay. Let me just open the document to remind myself.
So there's not a general solution to that, is there? In as much that a given image can be tagged with various things, and you would need to know which stream.
Yeah, you need to know which stream also the one that I found belongs to. That's the
Well, assuming that a digest can be in many streams,
yeah.
then you have more of a problem. Then you get the latest one and it could break you.
That is true, and that is also something that we don't know how to do right now.
One thing that some people do is and I'm not sure if it's 100% to spec, is that when you do reference an image by digest, you also have the tag in there. So in your cube spec or whatever it is.
We have seen that one. We also use it internally, and yes, it's not by spec as you said, but it's becoming more and more prevalent in the industry. One thing that we were kind of discussing is we can get like through external system what was deployed. So it's a little bit, so we're working right now to eventually index each step of the supply chain into tool like Guac, for example, which means that, let's say if I find the digest running on Kubernetes cluster, even if I don't have the tag, I can go and query where for this particular cluster, what was the deployment script that was used and how this digest was resolved from tag to digest, and eventually go back and get the tag history and say, okay, is that digest for this tag the latest one or is it something older? So it requires a couple of hops, but that is maybe one thing that we may look at. But the main scenario, as I said, is we want to make sure that when we have a digest, we know what is the latest from that tag stream. Which is very kind of in the sense of tough, right? So tough is this kind that you always move forward and you don't have the replay attacks and kind of similar type of scenario. So I want to go and update my image to the latest from the tag stream.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, given the tag, then you can guarantee that you get the right digest for it with tough. Yeah, it solves that part of your problem. Yeah. I was just trying to
Well,
understand the underlying motivation, so that's really helpful.
yeah,
Thanks.
if I have the tag, right, it's easy for me to know the latest because I can query the registry and the registry will give me the latest digest. But our problem right now is if I have the digest only, how do I figure out which is the right tag? And that's the first problem. The second problem is now I need to go and actually the second problem, which is having the tag, which is the latest digest, is easily solvable. But having the digest and figuring out which tag stream it belongs to is still something that we are trying to solve.
Well, that one can be solved with in toto attestations because the subject of those attestations will contain all of the tags. I can send an example. Here's an example. So you can see the subject array there has all of the tags. I mean, obviously that's only tags at the time of build. But assuming that is the case, then all of those tags should be there.
Trying to find
And that, although this is assuming that you reference the digest of indexes rather than the digest of individual images. Otherwise, this technique's not going to work.
yeah. But you end up with the individual images on the actual hosts when you deploy
You
them.
do, yeah. Although I guess the overall point here is regardless of where you decide to put your attestations, the subject of those attestations kind of necessarily binds the tag and the digest together at the time of signing, at the time of build.
Mm.
There's a kind of a way of getting a signed tag. Could be useful.
So I'm trying to find in the file. I cannot see the tags. This particular.
Oh, on the link I sent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
they've all been converted to pearls. So if you look at the name
Oh,
fields in the subject, so it's after the at symbol. There's the tag there.
oh, okay.
It's not pretty, but I believe those are tags.
So it's taking the subject. So you have Docker Notary at server 070, and you have the platform also.
Yep. And the digest. So there's everything there. That should be a URI for that image. It's like a resource descriptor, really, in the OCI sense.
So if I get the digest, which is B58C16, right? And how, based on this information, how do I know whether it belongs to whether I deployed server or server-070? Because server is a mutable tag and that can move to the next one.
Sorry, if you've got the digest, you can find the list of tags, so you can't tell you which one was deployed. No, it doesn't solve that problem for you, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the digest to tag lookup is maybe solved like this.
Mhm. That makes sense. So, okay, I will take a look at this, and we'll see about how we are still kind of experimenting how we can do that and how many hops and whether we need to solve this. But yeah,
So it's almost like there's a bit of metadata missing when people tag images, isn't there? Well, there's lots of metadata missing, but not
yeah,
signatures and so on. But whether or not this tag should be considered immutable or it's a stream that someone can follow, and that being a very useful bit of information.
yeah, that will be useful because like theoretically every tag can be a stream. There
Yeah,
is no restriction to say like you cannot override, which by the way, we had customers asking for that. They want to have like tag locking capability and say, once this tag is created, it cannot be updated anymore.
yeah, let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll look at that the in total attestations and see how we can fit it. My kind of thought was that the purpose of TUF is really to capture the state and say, okay, this is kind of the order that you should, let's say, upgrade the images. Because one of the other things that I was thinking of is in certain situation, you cannot go from version 1 to version 2 automatically. You may need to go to, let's say, I mean, one by one to do the updates. That is also, although version 1 and version 2 are two separate tag streams, so that kind of defeats the purpose of yeah. I'll need to look at this a little bit more, but that's the
Yeah, I
main
mean,
thing that we were trying to solve right now. And if we can solve it in a different way, I'm perfectly fine with that.
well, I mean, I think tough does solve the make sure you're getting the right digest for the tag once you dereference the tag, and I think that there's nothing else that solves that. But in terms of discovering which tag to use and recording the one at deployment, there is a deployment attestation in Toto
Yeah,
which where you could attest to which tag was used,
yep.
which might be reasonable.
So maybe question for you, do you think it makes sense to continue on this document, or do you think that's kind of moot point right now and we don't need that information?
Oh, you mean the lineage one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's specifically to do with your use cases, right? Is maintaining the history an important use case in of itself, or is it just about given it? I just see them as separate problems, right? There's, recording which tag you use to dereference the digest in the first place. There's discovering which tags an image has been, a particular digest has been tagged as, and then there's one of ensuring that you have the latest version of a tag in a cryptographically sound way, which is the tough problem. And um, they can kind of be dealt with separately, I would have thought.
I agree with that. Yeah.
But how that fits in with this doc, I'm not sure.
Mm.
I'll have to read it again. I think it's early days, but in this space for people doing what you're suggesting there, where we're really signing attestations on every step of supply chain and then using policy at every step of the supply chain to drive what happens, which is kind of
And that is
what you're talking about. That's where we're going.
yeah,
But
that's where everybody is going. Yeah, and we are also looking at that direction. We think that kind of tag history is important for other scenarios, but whether we need to actually capture it and sign it, that is questionable. Because if I have, let's say, the tag history API, right, I can just call the API and get the history. While this proposal is to actually capture it as an OCI artifact and sign it eventually to say, okay, every day this is what the history is, and if you receive something else, don't trust it. Right. The other scenario that we are looking for tag history is like synchronization of images between, let's say, two registries. Let's say if I import something from Docker Hub into my registry, right? And after that, let's say I do and override some of the tags in my registry. I want to be able to say, okay, Docker Hub, give me what you have as like how the tag evolved on your side, and I have on my side, and I can create the diff and say, okay, should I actually pull any new image from Docker Hub, or is the image that I pulled last time is the most up to date in the source registry?
yeah, I mean, in the end, that use case, if we're talking about doing it in a secure way, that use case requires the freshness capability that Tough adds.
Yeah.
And then we're kind of over to the Tough in OCI doc that I posted, where every single tag has a timestamp or something like that, some kind of solution there where so you don't need the whole history, you just need to look at the current state for that use case, right?
Yeah.
I would have thought.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that, like, if we want to do that, we just need to sign like every day we need to sign just this is the latest tag and that's it, or this is the latest digest from this tag history. You don't need the
Or
whole.
something like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't need the whole history. You can throw the rest of that away.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's all there, of course. Or it could all be there, but I'm not sure if anyone deletes anything on Windows 2 these
No.
days.
Nobody deletes anything in the registries, you know.
because everything breaks, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I think we can scrap the document and just go with what you're proposing, like signing this is the latest from
Yeah,
the.
I think the big question in my doc, well, first of all, we haven't implemented anything or looked at how it would scale, which is the trade-off between, do we create a timestamp for each image or each namespace?
Mhm,
At what level do we actually create snapshots for
mhm.
timestamping? I think that's the big open question, and
Yeah.
that's just going to require the data and proper prototype.
Have you started trying that in Docker Hub or not? Not yet.
No, no.
Okay. Yeah,
But
if
we fully intend to, because the downgrade attack is probably, well, it is a devastating attack and super easy to orchestrate if you have registry credentials. So from a supply chain perspective, it's, hey, I know this old version's got a critical vulnerability. I'm just going to downgrade everyone to it. And you just disrupted everybody's signing and attestations, and it all becomes pointless as we've got this trusted old image with a known
yeah,
vulnerability. So,
yeah.
we know it has to be solved.
Mhm.
It's just first things first.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Then yeah, you can forget about the tag history and signing the whole history. I think after because I rolled that it's already months ago. That was the thinking at that time. Now things evolved quite some different directions, so we can scrap this thing.
Okay. I I have promised the tough folks an updated version of my doc as well, which I've been meaning to get to for, well, probably as long as you've been doing this one for like a couple of months. But I'll certainly bring it to this group as well, if and when I get around to that.
Mhm.
But I can't make any promises. I don't want to break them.
Makes sense. Okay, yeah, thanks for the advice, James. Actually, I'll continue exploring in this direction. And when we have something, I'll be happy to share with this group or any other group that's interested.
Sounds good.
Anything else, Vanny, Akash, David? If if not, then we can get half an hour back there. Get something
That's
done.
good. Thanks,
Have a nice
everybody.
evening.
Bye.
Have a nice day, everybody. See
You
ya.
too.
Thanks, James.